I hate intros, Chihayafuru Season 1. We kick things off with the introduction of Chihaya Ayase, who's trying to start a karate club at her school that she just transferred to. She soon finds out that one of her childhood friends named Taichi Mashima is attending the school also. We get a flashback of when they were kids, and Chihaya meets the new transfer student to their school, Arata Wataya, who's bullied by the other kids for being poor. Chihaya defends him, and they end up becoming friends. She asks him what his dream is, which is when he introduces her to karate. He stomps her in their first match, but that's where she developed her love for the game. Episode 2. Taichi's kind of a douchebag back then, so him and the other kids continue bullying Arata while Chihaya does her best to defend him. When Taichi says that Arata has nothing good going for him, she brings up karate. They conveniently have a school karate competition coming up. When Taichi calls Arata out saying that he's gonna win the competition, Arata for the first time stands up for himself. During the competition, Taichi sees how strong Arata is, so he steals his glasses to give him an edge. When they face off, Arata is still doing well because he memorized where all of the cards are, but when Taichi starts moving them around, he begins losing ground. Chihaya comes to his rescue, saying that she'll play in his stead since he doesn't have his glasses. It's a close match that comes down to the last card, and the last card just so happens to be the card that Arata labeled as Chihaya's card because it starts with Chihayafuru. As soon as she hears the start, she immediately goes for the card, winning the match. Later, Taichi returned Arata's glasses and admitted to stealing them while requesting that Arata not tell Chihaya because he doesn't want her to hate him. Episode 3. The three of them start to hang out more and join the Shiranami Karate Society to get more practice. While there, they meet the instructor Hideo Harada, who will play a part later on, but they also meet another kid named Hiro. Things get a little tense with Hiro, and this ends up turning into a 3v3 competition against him and his friends. The match is another stomp because Arata is OP, and after the match, we find out that Arata won the national competition 5 years in a row for his age group. The three of them had fun playing together, so they decide to enter a 3v3 competition being held and start training for it. However, things change when Taichi gets into a new prestigious school and Arata is moving away also, meaning they won't be able to play together much longer. Episode 4. Jump back to the present where we learn that karate players are divided into classes based on skill. Chihaya is B class and playing her promotions to earn A class. She tells Taichi that if she gets A class, then he has to start a karate club with her. She ends up winning her promotional and is super excited to call Arata, who she hasn't talked to in a long time, to let him know that she made A class. It's pretty obvious at this point that Taichi is crushing on her, so this kinda sucks for him to have to watch her always thinking about Arata first. When she calls him to tell him the good news, he says that he doesn't play karate anymore and to not call him back. Episode 5. Chihaya is worried about Arata after talking to him, so she drags Taichi along to go see him. While heading there, Taichi almost makes his move, which cues the blocking of genitalia by Arata, who rides by on his bike. Instead of yelling out like a normal person, Chihaya rips him off his bike and he lands on top of her, getting me all hot and bothered. Chihaya suggests the three of them play a game of karate, but this irritates Arata and he's really cold to them, forcing them to leave. We learn that Arata's grandfather, Hajime Wataya, held the title of Meijin and was known as Eternal Master Hajime. Hajime taught Arata everything he knows about karate, and they were very close, so after he passed away, Arata gave up on playing. In the last scene, Arata chases after their train on his bike, suggesting that he wanted to see them and doesn't hate karate. Taichi then goes on to agree on making a karate club with Chihaya. Episode 6. We get introduced to Kaneda Oe, who is in love with Japanese traditions like the poems in karate, so she takes an interest in the club. Most of the episode is Chihaya trying to convince her to join. She goes to see Oe at her parents' traditional clothing shop where they get to talking about the poems. Chihaya is fascinated by the meanings behind all of the poems, and the discussion helps her get even better. After talking, Oe is finally convinced into joining the club. Episode 7. Their club needs 5 members for it to be an official club, so Chihaya goes out to scout for their 4th member. This cues the introduction of the bookworm Tsutomu Komono. Chihaya takes a more hands-on approach while making him join, since he doesn't want to because he's obsessed with his grades. Look, if a hot girl asks you to join a club, you just do it.
I don't really like the club.
Who cares? She could be thirsty. She could be asking because she's thirsty for you, and if not, then she's gonna be stuck in there, but it's totally worth the risk. Anyways, Chihaya explains that karate will help him with memorizing his schoolwork, but he doesn't buy it. He challenges them to play with the cards down to prove that they can actually memorize where they're at. This actually gives Taichi an edge, and for the first time, he wins against Chihaya, feeding his competitive drive. Kumano explains that he doesn't have the natural talent to play karate. After hearing this, Taichi has a short talk with him and is able to convince him to join the team. Episode 8. They continue recruiting for their last member, and Chihaya recognizes Yusei Nishida, who was one of the kids that played karate when they were little. He ended up quitting because he was ranked 2nd in Japan during elementary school and always got smashed by Arata, who was rank 1. He decided he was never going to be able to beat him, so he gave up on trying. Nishida agrees to play a game against Chihaya, but if he wins, she has to agree to stop pestering him about joining. He turns out to still be really good and gives her a run for her money. While playing, he remembers how much he loved karate, so after the match he quits the tennis club to become their 5th member. Episode 9. We get a little more information on the rankings, with new players starting at Class E and then climbing their way up to Class A. Nishida and Taichi are both Class B, and they have to win or get runner-up in 2 competitions to move up to Class A. All of them decide to do a training camp, so they head to Taichi's house since his parents are away. Chihaya makes a rigorous practice schedule, but it ends up getting cut short when Taichi's mom comes home without notice, forcing the girls to sneak out. Later that night, Oe pulls Chihaya out where they meet the guys and celebrate Chihaya's birthday. Once again, Taichi gets his manhood blocked by a text from Arata wishing her a happy birthday and apologizing. Episode 10. The time has come for them to put their skills to the test in the qualifiers for the high school nationals. At the competition, Chihaya runs into Hito again, who's representing Hokuo Academy. They entered a team competition where the format is 5v5 and there has to be 3 winners on their school's team to advance to the next round. They win the first round against Eiko Academy 3-2, with their newer members Kamino and Oe losing. In the second round, they go against Shuriken, where Oe wins her first match, advancing them further. Kamino kinda puts a damper on things when he wants to quit because he hasn't won a match yet. The semis are against Tomihata West, where they are forced to play 4v5 because Kamino is being a baby and sitting this one out. Chihaya is off her game and they nearly lose, but she claws back from a massive deficit to win the match. In the last scene, Kamino apologizes and says he wants to play in the finals. Episode 11. For the finals, they go up against Hokuo Academy, with Chihaya gaining and losing momentum against her opponent Akito Sudo, who's known for being a crazy sadist. Nishida is also struggling while thinking about how much better he could have been if he didn't quit. Both Oe and Kamino lose their matches, leaving it up to the others to carry. Taichi gets them on the board with his win, and Nishida follows suit soon after. Now it's all up to Chihaya, and luckily her Chihayafuru card is the last one called, leaving the opposition no chance as she never misses that card. In the last scene, Arata gets a message saying that they qualified and for him to go to Omi Shrine to watch them compete at nationals. Episode 12. Chihaya is excited about winning the qualifiers, but she is constantly overshadowed by her older sister Chitose, who's trying to make it in show business. Her parents always seem so distracted with her sister, so she can't find the right time to tell them her good news. To help prepare for the upcoming tournament, Chihaya and Taichi go to practice with Harada at his society. Later, Chihaya finds out that her parents are actually following her success and making a scrapbook out of her karate accomplishments. Tako Miyachi, one of their teachers, never really gave much mind to their club and was always focused on the tennis club until she saw them practicing one day. She sees how much work they put into karate and takes a new interest in them, offering to accompany them to the Omi Shrine. Episode 13. They arrive at the shrine to compete in the high school nationals. Arata is on his way there as well, and we get more details on when he stopped playing. He was always looking after his grandfather, who had early signs of dementia and started forgetting him and karate altogether. He fights through these memories and goes inside right as Chihaya passes out in the first round, forcing her to forfeit her match. She wakes up to find Arata there, but is taken to the hospital before they could really talk. Later on, she runs into Sudo from the qualifiers, who's pissed because she knocked them out and then went on to forfeit at nationals, even though it really wasn't her fault. We learned that Kamino won his first game, but they ended up losing against Fujisaki Academy. Arata had also left her a gift saying that the next time they meet will be in a match, meaning that he's gonna start playing karate seriously again. Episode 14. Even though the team tournament is over, they still have the individual tournament to compete in. We get the official introduction to Shinobu Wakamiya, the Queen, which is the title of the best female karate player in Japan. This is the title that every karate player is shooting for, including Chihaya, so this is the girl she's gonna have to beat to earn that title. The individual tournament gets underway, and Shinobu goes on to defeat Nayuta Amakasu from Hoku Academy with a 24 card difference. Chihaya wins her match also, and ends up getting placed against Shinobu in the next round. It becomes painfully obvious that the Queen is on a whole nother level. Chihaya is reminded of being severely outclassed by Arata when they first played, but rallies just enough to take a couple of cards off of her. Episode 15. By the end of the match, Chihaya had only taken 5 cards, losing by 20. Shinobu ends up facing against Sudo in the finals and wins by 12 cards. Owe and Komine were both competing in the lower divisions and knocked out in the 3rd round. Taichi, on the other hand, made it all the way to the Class B finals, so everybody goes to cheer for him. He ends up losing, but it was a really close match, with him only being down 3 cards at the end of it. The losers all head back and use their summer break to continue improving. We also get a look at Arata making his return by joining the Fuki Nagumo Karate Society. Episode 16 is a recap episode, so don't worry about that one. Episode 17. We get some filler content with the sports festival being held at their school and the karate club competing in it. They all get together to discuss the upcoming competitions and decide which ones they're gonna enter to improve their ranks. Taichi is shooting for Class A, which is the minimum to enter the Meijin Queen Eastern Japan qualifiers, the most important competition of the year. This is where people go at it for the right to compete for the title of Queen by becoming the Eastern Japan delegate. To improve his rank, Taichi goes to a Class B tournament where he ends up running into Nishita, who is also competing. They both end up losing, not making any progress towards their promos. Episode 18. Chihaya has her first Class A match outside of high school competition against Sakura Kanai. The others are also at the same tournament trying to rank up. She loses by 6 cards, but learns a lot from her opponent about not playing so fast while refining her accuracy and timing. Jump over to the others where Taichi and Nishita both made it to the Class B finals and have to square off against each other. But it's not just them, Komino and Oe made it to the Class D finals, so they have to play against each other also. Episode 19. With both finals happening at the same time, Chihaya is more focused on the Class D final. Komino starts choking pretty hard and making a lot of mistakes. He almost rallies to make a comeback, but the deficit is too great and Oe ends up winning the finals. The Class B finals are as close as it gets, with both Taichi and Nishita down to 1 card each and entering sudden death. The last card read is on Nishita's side, giving him an overwhelming advantage since he's so much closer. He of course wins, making Taichi the runner-up. The rules are different for Class D, with the top 3 at a tournament getting promoted to Class C, so Komino and Oe move up a class. Nishita had also moved up to Class A after his victory, leaving Taichi behind in Class B. Jump over to Arata, who's also going to be competing in the Meijin Queen tournament to become the Western delegate. Episode 20. Chihaya has been too focused on karate, so her grades are suffering. She is forced to skip a tournament to get her grades boosted by Komino. The tournament is just for A and B class members, so Taichi decides he'll go by himself because Nishita is studying also. Normally you can rank up from 2 second place finishes, which Taichi has gotten, but the society that him and Chihaya are a part of require that he wins first place before he can rank up. He wants to compete in the Meijin Queen tournament, and this is his last chance to get Class A before then. While there, he happens to run into Arata, who's competing as well in Class A. Chihaya sneaks out of her studies because she wants to go support Taichi. When she arrives, she learns that he lost in the 3rd round, but also that Arata is competing. Chihaya is mesmerized by how he plays, but he ends up losing to some bad luck towards the end of his match. Everybody parts ways after a short talk that was pretty much irrelevant, and later, even though it's not part of the Shiranami Society rules, Harada offers to advance Taichi to Class A. This way he'll be able to participate in the Meijin qualifiers along with Chihaya. He appreciates the offer, but he ultimately turns it down because he wants to earn it properly. Episode 21. Now we're gonna jump ahead to the start of the Eastern Japan qualifiers. This is the big one, and in the first round, Nishita is going up against Sudo. Chihaya is against Rika Tachikawa, who is said to be the next Shinobu and is only in 6th grade. The little girl reminds Chihaya of how she used to be when she only focused on speed. Chihaya's experience gives her the advantage, and she goes on to smash the little prodigy, making it through the first round. Episode 22. In her second match, Chihaya is placed against Yamamoto Yumi, who is the former queen that was dethroned by Shinobu. We also learned that Nishita got killed by Sudo in their match, losing by 20 cards, so he's kinda down in the dumps. But anyways, back to the match. Yumi is discouraged after suffering so many defeats and only retaining the queen title for 1 year, giving off this vibe like she has given up. This makes Chihaya even more determined because she doesn't want to lose a single card against somebody who isn't even trying. Yumi picks up on this and out of nowhere gains a second win, fighting for cards and arguing constantly about who is faster. In the end, she is able to pull the match back into her favor and wins, knocking Chihaya out of the qualifiers. Episode 23. Now that Chihaya and Nishida are out of the running, they go to cheer for their instructor Harada, who's competing against Sudo. Harada ends up winning the match by 3 cards, but you can tell since he's older, he's starting to run out of energy. He loses in the semifinals, so the Eastern Japan rep for Meijin is Hiroshi Superguchi, which is the ace at Chihaya's society and also the one who beat Arata when Chihaya watched them play. The rep for Queen ended up being Yumi, keeping her dreams of reclaiming her title alive. In 1 month, the two of them will go against the reps from Western Japan, and the winner of that will have earned the chance to challenge the current Meijin or Queen. Arata, who is participating in the Western qualifiers, made it pretty far but ended up losing in the 4th round. Takamura had won the Western qualifiers and beat Superguchi in their match, giving him the opportunity to challenge the current Meijin. Yumi wins her match against the Western delegate, earning a rematch against Shinobu. Episode 24. Chihaya goes over to Taichi's house to watch the Meijin and Queen matches with him and the others. Shinobu had put on a couple of pounds, so she's looking extra thick for her match. Her recent weight gain is working against her, and she appears to be much slower than before. This doesn't stop her though, and she goes on to win the final match in the series by 13 cards, retaining her title. Now we get our first look at the current Meijin, Hisashi Suo, during his match against Takamura. They missed their earlier matches where Suo won by 5 cards on the first match and 13 on the second match. Takamura feels helpless in the matches, being severely outclassed by Suo, who has retained the Meijin title for 3 years straight. Episode 25. Suo goes on to win the match no problem, with all of the characters studying his techniques. He says that he can distinguish multiple syllable cards apart from one another on the first syllable, which is similar to what Chihaya is able to do. After hearing this, she tries harder to get multiple syllable cards on their first syllable. Later on, Oe talks with Chihaya and expresses that she has a newfound dream to become a qualified reader and read at Chihaya's Queen match. However, to become a reader, you also have to get into Class A, which is a tad bit discouraging for her, but she is determined and practices reading for their club matches. Speaking of the club, their classroom is being contested by another teacher, so in order to retain such a large room, they have to get 5 new members. I'm going to be doing the future seasons, and that'll be in the bottom left whenever I'm finished with it, or you can check out all the Chihayafuru recaps in this playlist here. You can also find the links in the description below, and the only thing I hate more than intros is outros.